Sarah Chen stared at the blinking morning light on her suit's oxygen display. 6 hours left. More than enough time to finish surveying this derelict station, but the constant reminder of her limited air supply still made her uneasy. 20 years of military engineering experience hadn't dulled her survival instincts. The abandoned Horizon 7 research station drifted silently in space, its darkened corridors illuminated only by her helmet lights and the distant glow of the nebula outside. After retiring from Earth's Defense Force, Sarah had taken up salvage work to keep busy. Better than sitting in her apartment, drowning in memories of wars she'd rather forget. Her scanner chirped, detecting an energy signature deeper within the station. That was unusual. Horizon 7 had been abandoned for nearly a decade after a mysterious accident. There shouldn't be any active power sources. "Control, are you getting this?" Sarah called over her comm. Static answered. The nebula's radiation must be interfering with communications again. She was on her own. Sarah followed the energy signature through the twisted corridors, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. The station's artificial gravity still functioned in some sections, creating disorienting transitions as she moved between areas. The signal led her to a sealed laboratory door. Unlike the rest of the station, this door had power. A soft blue light pulsed around its frame. Sarah ran her hand over the access panel, brushing away years of accumulated dust. To her surprise, it responded to her touch, requesting authentication. She pulled out her override unit, a little souvenir from her military days that she definitely wasn't supposed to have. The door's security was impressive but outdated. Within minutes, she was in. The laboratory was a mess of broken equipment and scattered datapads, telling the story of a hasty evacuation. But what caught Sarah's attention was the stasis pod humming quietly in the corner. Its power cells were nearly depleted, but it was still functioning after all these years. Sarah approached cautiously, wiping condensation from the pod's viewing window. She stumbled back in shock. Inside was a creature unlike anything she'd ever seen. About the size of a large dog, it had iridescent scales and multiple pairs of wings folded tightly against its body. Its chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. What were they doing out here? Sarah muttered, accessing the pod's control panel. The creature's life signs were failing. The pod's power wouldn't last another day. She had a choice to make. The smart move would be to call this in, wait for a proper research team. But that would take days, and the creature didn't have that long. Besides, she had seen enough classified experiments during her service to know how this would likely end, with the creature disappeared into some black site laboratory, never to be seen again. Sarah began the pod's shutdown sequence. She didn't know what this creature was or why it was here, but she couldn't leave it to die. As the pod's cover slid open, the creature's eyes fluttered open. Brilliant gold irises with vertical pupils. It looked at Sarah with unmistakable intelligence. A sharp pain lanced through her head, accompanied by a flood of images and emotions. The creature was communicating telepathically, sharing fragments of memory. Sarah saw glimpses of a vast civilization among the stars, of terrible weapons, and of a desperate plan to preserve something precious. The creature tried to move but was too weak. Sarah carefully lifted it from the pod, surprised by how light it was. Its scales were warm to the touch, and she could feel a rapid heartbeat. "Easy there," she soothed, though she wasn't sure if it could understand speech. "I'm getting you out of here." The creature chirped softly and pressed its head against her chest. Another telepathic burst followed, shorter this time. An image of massive ships with corporate logos, of laboratories, and of others of its kind in cages. "Someone's looking for you, aren't they?" Sarah asked grimly. The creature's answering chirp confirmed her fears. Her suit's radio crackled to life suddenly, making her jump. "Unidentified vessel approaching," her ship's AI announced. "Corporate registry, heavily armed." Sarah's military training kicked in. Time to departure. 3 minutes to weapons range. She secured the creature against her chest with one arm. "That's all we need. Initiate emergency recall. Full power to shields. As Sarah sprinted back through the station, she realized her quiet retirement was officially over. Whatever this creature was, whatever experiment or secret she had stumbled upon, she was now involved. The corporation would be hunting them both. The creature trembled against her, sending her another telepathic message. This time she saw a star map, coordinates burning themselves into her memory. Somewhere out there were answers, and possibly more survivors of its kind. "Don't worry," she told her new companion as they reached her ship's airlock. "We'll figure this out together." Behind them, the first warning shots lit up the darkness of space. Sarah smiled grimly as she strapped in. They wanted to play chase. Fine. She hadn't spent 20 years in the Defense Force without learning a few tricks. The game was on. Sarah's ship burst from the nebula's outer edge, engines straining as she pushed them well past recommended limits. The corporate vessel pursuing them was larger and better armed, but Sarah's smaller ship was more maneuverable. She had modified it herself, another souvenir from her military days. The alien creature lay curled in a makeshift nest of emergency blankets in her cargo hold, its breathing steadier now, but still weak. Every few minutes, it would send her fragments of thoughts and memories. Glimpses of a war fought in the shadows of distant stars, of experiments performed in secret laboratories, and of a desperate plan to prevent something catastrophic. "Incoming transmission," her ship's AI announced. "Let's hear it," Sarah replied, plotting another evasive course through a dense asteroid field. "This is Nexus Corporation Security," a stern voice declared. "You have stolen classified corporate property. Return it immediately or face lethal force." Sarah snorted. "Property? That's what they're calling it." She killed the transmission. The creature's latest telepathic burst showed her images of dozens of its kind, imprisoned and experimented on. Whatever Nexus Corporation was doing, it went far beyond normal research. Her tactical display lit up with new warnings. The corporate ship had launched fighters, 3 small craft, optimized for pursuit and capture. Sarah recognized the design. She had helped develop countermeasures against similar vessels during her service. "They're not making this easy," she muttered, diving her ship into the asteroid field. The creature chirped from the cargo hold, a sound that somehow conveyed both concern and encouragement. The fighters followed, their pilots skilled but cautious. Sarah used the asteroids for cover, occasionally firing her ship's mining laser to fragment the space rocks, creating clouds of debris that forced her pursuers to alter course. But she knew she couldn't keep this up forever. Her ship's fuel reserves were dropping, and the strain of continuous high-speed maneuvering was taking its toll on the engines. She needed a plan. Another telepathic message flooded her mind. Stronger this time. She saw a massive space station hidden in an ice ring around a gas giant, its surface covered in stealth plating that made it nearly invisible to sensors. The coordinates matched what the creature had shown her earlier. "That's where you came from?" Sarah asked. The creature chirped affirmatively. Before she could process this new information, her ship shuddered violently. One of the fighters had managed to score a glancing hit with an EMP weapon. Several systems went dark. "Main power at 60%, the AI reported. "Shield generator failing." Sarah's mind raced. The gas giant was too far. They'd never make it with damaged systems. But maybe they didn't have to. She pulled up a map of the sector, looking for options. There, an old mining outpost, abandoned after the ore deposits ran dry. Close enough to reach, remote enough to hide. She swung the ship around, using the last of her shield power to deflect another burst of weapons fire. The mining outpost grew larger in her view screen, a collection of habitation modules and processing plants built into a hollow asteroid. "Hang on," she called to her passenger. "This is going to be close." Sarah fired her remaining missiles, not at the pursuing fighters, but at the asteroid field around them. The explosions shattered several large rocks, creating a devastating chain reaction of colliding debris. The fighters scattered to avoid the chaos. giving her the opening she needed. She dove for the mining outpost's main hangar, her ship scraping against the entry port as the emergency doors slammed shut behind them. The whole structure groaned as debris from the asteroid field peppered its outer hull. Sarah powered down all non-essential systems, hoping the outpost's thick walls would mask their energy signature. For several tense minutes, they waited in darkness. Finally, her sensors showed the fighters moving away, presumably to regroup with their carrier. She slumped in her chair, exhausted. That was too close. Making her way to the cargo hold, she found the creature attempting to stand on shaky legs. Its scales had taken on a deeper, healthier color, and its multiple pairs of wings were starting to unfold. "You're looking better," Sarah said, kneeling beside it. "Now, how about you show me exactly what I've gotten myself into?" The creature's telepathic response was immediate and intense. Sarah saw laboratories where Nexus Corporation scientists spliced alien DNA, creating biological weapons that defy description. She saw her own species, humans, secretly funding these experiments through shadow organizations. And she saw something else, a resistance movement, composed of both aliens and humans, working to expose and stop these violations. "They're using your kind to make weapons," Sarah said grimly. The creature nodded, its golden eyes reflecting the dim emergency lights. A new image formed in her mind. Thousands of stasis pods like the one she had found, scattered across abandoned stations and hidden facilities. More survivors, waiting to be rescued. Sarah checked her ship's damaged systems. The repairs would take time they might not have. But she had survived worse odds during the war, and she had never been able to walk away from a fight that mattered. "All right," she said, scratching the creature behind what she assumed was its ear. "First, we repair the ship. Then we find your friends. And then," she smiled grimly, "then we make sure everyone knows exactly what Nexus Corporation has been up to." The creature chirped approvingly, but its jubilation was cut short by a warning from Sarah's eye. Multiple ships entering the system. Energy signatures matched Nexus Corporation vessels. Sarah's smile faded. The hunters had called for reinforcements. Their brief respite was over. "So much for catching my breath," she muttered, already moving to prepare the ship's defenses. Whatever came next, she knew this was just the beginning of a much larger battle. Sarah worked frantically on her ship's damaged systems, sweat beading on her forehead as she rerouted power through backup circuits. The mining outpost's thick walls wouldn't hide them forever, and the Nexus Corporation ships were methodically scanning the asteroid field. Her alien companion watched intently, occasionally using its telekinetic abilities to float tools to her. The creature had grown stronger by the hour, its iridescent scales now pulsing with subtle patterns of light that seemed to reflect its emotions. "Almost there," Sarah muttered, sealing the last power conduit. "Just need tow." A loud clang echoed through the outpost, followed by the unmistakable sound of an airlock cycling. Someone had docked. Sarah grabbed her pulse rifle, positioning herself between the creature and the cargo bay door. "Stay behind me," she whispered, though she suspected her companion could take care of itself by now. The door slid open with a hiss. Sarah's finger tightened on the trigger, then froze as she recognized the figure standing there. "Still keeping interesting company, I see," said Commander Marcus Wong, her former commanding officer from the Defense Force. He hadn't aged a day, which immediately set off warning bells in Sarah's mind. "You're dead," she said flatly, keeping her rifle raised. "I watched your ship explode during the Centauri campaign." Marcus smiled sadly. "Did you really think I'd let something like death stop me from completing the mission?" He gestured to his face, where subtle seams were now visible in his skin. The wonders of corporate biotechnology. The alien creature chirped sharply, sending Sarah a burst of images. Marcus in a Nexus laboratory, his body being rebuilt with experimental technology, his mind uploaded into a hybrid organic digital matrix. "They rebuilt you," Sarah said, disgust creeping into her voice. "Made you their puppet." "Their partner," Marcus corrected. Someone had to guide humanity's evolution, Sarah. The corporations understood what our political leaders wouldn't, that we needed to change to survive in this galaxy. The experiments, the weapons, they're all meant to ensure humanity's dominance. Sarah's grip on her rifle tightened. By torturing and experimenting on sentient beings. That's not evolution, Marcus. That's just cruelty wearing a fancy corporate logo. More footsteps approached from the airlock. Sarah tensed, but instead of Nexus troops, 3 figures in worn environmental suits appeared. They removed their helmets, revealing distinctly non-human features, scaled skin, compound eyes, and bioluminescent markings. The Resistance, I presume. Sarah asked her alien companion, who chirped affirmatively. One of the aliens stepped forward, its voice a melodious blend of tones. We traced the telepathic signature of our young one. We are the archivists, keepers of knowledge and witnesses to atrocity. Your kind would call us rebels. Marcus sneered. Terrorists and thieves. They've been sabotaging our research for years, stealing our subjects, destroying valuable data, freeing prisoners and exposing war crimes, the archivist corrected. As some of your own kind have helped us do. It turned to Sarah. Like the real Marcus Wong, who died helping us escape a Nexus facility. Sarah's eyes widened as the pieces clicked into place. You're not just a corporate puppet, she told the thing wearing Marcus's face. You're a prototype. They're using the same technology they developed from experimenting on the archivists. The next step in human evolution, Marcus declared proudly. Perfect fusion of organic and artificial. Immortality. Power. Everything humanity has dreamed of. At the cost of our souls, Sarah countered. She looked at the archivists. How many more of their kind are in stasis? How many more facilities are there? Dozens, the lead archivist replied. But we lack the strength to free them all. The corporations have armies, weapons derived from our biology. We need help. Sarah's alien companion suddenly projected a new series of images, not memories this time, but possibilities. Humans and archivists working together, sharing knowledge instead of stealing it, using their combined strength to expose Nexus and end their experiments. You really think humanity would accept your kind? Marcus laughed. They'd fear you, hunt you. Better to stay in the shadows where you belong. That's where you're wrong, Sarah said quietly. Humans are better than you think. We just need a chance to prove it. She lowered her rifle slightly, addressing the archivists. I have military experience, knowledge of corporate security systems, and apparently a talent for rescuing your people. If you're looking for help, I'm in. The young alien creature bounded to her side, its scales glowing with approval. The archivists conferred briefly in their musical language before the leader nodded. Then we must move quickly, it said. More corporate ships approach, and this one, it gestured to Marcus, is merely a distraction. Sarah's tactical display confirmed it. A full battle group emerging from hyperspace. Marcus's smile widened. Last chance to surrender, he offered. The corporation could use someone with your skills. Sarah answered by shooting him in the chest. The hybrid body sparked and staggered but didn't fall. Sorry, Marcus, she said, but I like my humanity just the way it is. The archivists moved with incredible speed, their bodies radiating energy that interfered with Marcus's systems. He convulsed, artificial muscles seizing as the young alien creature added its own telepathic assault. We must go, the lead archivist urged. Our ship can carry yours in its hold. Sarah nodded, already moving to power up her vessel. The battle for humanity's soul was about to begin, and this time she was fighting on the right side. As they prepared to leave, she glanced at her alien companion, who had refused to leave her side. I hope you're ready for a real adventure, little one, because something tells me this is going to get a lot messier before it gets better. The creature's answering chirp conveyed both determination and joy. Together, they would show the galaxy that humanity's true strength lay not in corporate laboratories, but in the capacity for compassion, justice, and the courage to fight for what was right. The archivist ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of an asteroid belt surrounding a massive gas giant. Sarah stood on the bridge, watching as the swirling storms of the planet cast an eerie glow across the field of icy rocks. Her alien companion, whom she'd started calling Nova due to its luminescent scales, pressed against her leg reassuringly. Nexus Corporation's primary research facility lies within the ice ring. The lead archivist, Carol, explained. They believe their stealth systems make them invisible. They are wrong. The ship's sensors revealed what human technology couldn't detect. Subtle distortions in space, where archival biology interfaced with modified human technology. The facility was enormous, stretching for kilometers through the ice ring. How many prisoners? Sarah asked, dreading the answer. Hundreds, Carl replied. Both our kind and yours. Those whose modifications proved less successful than your former commanders. Sarah's tactical mind was already analyzing approach vectors. They'll have defenses we can't see, hybrid weapons, experimental tech, and after our escape, they'll be expecting something. Nova chirped, sharing a vision of other resistance cells moving into position throughout the sector. The archivists had planned this for years, waiting for the right moment, the right allies. We are not alone, Carl confirmed. Your escape with our young one proved that their security could be breached. Others have been inspired. Ships approach from 12 different systems, humans and aliens who have lost family to Nexus experiments. Sarah's console lit up with incoming transmissions. Merchant vessels, retired military ships, even a few corporate defectors, all converging on their position, all ready to fight. They'll still outnumber us, Sarah noted. And they have Marcus's hybrid forces. Nova projected another image, the facility's power core, based on stolen archival technology. Its destruction would overload every hybrid system in range. A suicide mission, Sarah muttered. Someone would have to get inside, reach the core. Not suicide, Carl corrected. Sacrifice, one we have prepared for. The archivist's bioluminescent markings pulsed with determination. But we need your knowledge of human security systems. Before Sarah could respond, proximity alarms blared. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Nexus Corporation's home fleet. At their head was a massive dreadnought, its hull bristling with weapons that glowed with an unnatural light. Marcus's voice filled their comms. Impressive gathering, Sarah. But did you really think we wouldn't be ready? This facility represents the future of human evolution. We will not surrender it. Sarah watched as hybrid fighters launched from the dreadnought, their pilots more machine than human. Energy weapons powered up, their signature matching the biological readings of the archivists themselves. They'd weaponize your own biology against you, she told Carl. Used it to create weapons specifically designed to destroy your kind. The archivist's response was cut off by the first volley of fire. The resistance fleet scattered, returning fire as the battle erupted across the ice ring. Sarah's military training kicked in as she coordinated their forces, using the asteroid field for cover. Nova suddenly projected an urgent series of images: maintenance tunnels, access shafts, blind spots in the facility's security. The young alien had been gathering intelligence during its captivity. There, Sarah pointed to a seemingly solid section of the ice ring. That's our way in. If we time it right, we can slip through during the chaos. Carol signaled to a group of smaller ships. Our strike team stands ready. But we must move now, before they realize our true target. Sarah checked her modified pulse rifle and the experimental shield generator she'd salvaged from her military days. Nova, you're staying here. The alien creature's protest was immediate and intense, flooding her mind with emotions of loyalty and determination. You've done enough, Sarah insisted. The resistance needs you alive, needs your knowledge. Nova's scales dimmed with sadness, but it understood. It had seen too many of its kind die in Nexus's laboratories. The strike team assembled in the launch bay. 3 archivists, 2 human corporate defectors, and Sarah. Carl handed her a small crystal that pulsed with bioorganic light. When you reach the core, this will interface with their systems. It contains a virus, coded in both digital and biological languages. It will not just destroy their facility. It will broadcast everything they have done to every corner of human space. Sarah secured the crystal. The truth as a weapon. The deadliest kind, Carl agreed. They launched during a particularly fierce exchange of fire, their small shuttle lost in the chaos of battle. Sarah piloted them through debris fields and weapons fire, using Nova's intelligence to find gaps in the facility's sensor coverage. As they approached their entry point, Sarah's thoughts turned to Marcus and what Nexus had done to him. How many other soldiers had they upgraded without consent? How many more would suffer if they didn't end this now? The shuttle's comms crackled. "I know what you're planning, Sarah." Marcus's voice was calm, almost sad. "You can't stop evolution. Humanity must adapt or die." Sarah guided their shuttle into a maintenance airlock. "Humanity is more than just flesh and metal, Marcus. It's about choice, compassion, things you forgot when you let them turn you into a machine." "We'll see who history proves right," he replied as the channel went dead. The strike team emerged into dimly lit corridors. Ahead lay the heart of Nexus operation, where human ambition and alien biology had been twisted into something monstrous. Sarah checked her weapon and nodded to her companions. "Let's remind the galaxy what humanity really stands for." The facility's corridors pulsed with an unsettling fusion of organic and mechanical energy. Sarah led her strike team deeper into the complex, following Nova's mental map. The sounds of battle echoed through the station's hull, the resistance fleet engaging Nexus's forces outside. They encountered the first hybrid guards at a security checkpoint. The creatures that had once been human moved with unsettling precision, their augmented bodies gleaming under the emergency lights. Sarah's pulse rifle proved surprisingly ineffective, but the Archivist's bioenergy weapons cut through their defenses. "Their modifications," one of the corporate defectors explained, checking a fallen guard. "Based on Archivist biology. They're evolving with each generation." Sarah accessed a nearby terminal, downloading facility schematics, 3 levels down to the core. But these readings, she frowned at the data. There's something else down there. Something big. The team fought their way through increasingly heavy resistance. Sarah's military experience and the Archivist's powers complemented each other perfectly, but each confrontation cost them time and energy. Finally, they'd reached the central shaft leading to the core. The massive chamber below took Sarah's breath away. Hundreds of stasis pods lined the walls, containing both humans and Archivists in various stages of transformation. At the center, a massive reactor pulsed with bioorganic energy, feeding power to the entire facility. "My God," Sarah whispered, "they're not just making weapons. They're trying to force evolve an entire new species." "Beautiful, isn't it?" Marcus's voice echoed through the chamber. He emerged from behind the reactor, his hybrid body now fully transformed. Organic technology flowed across his surface like liquid metal. The next step in human evolution. No more limitations, no more mortality. Pure potential. The crystal Carl had given Sarah pulsed urgently against her chest. She could feel its eagerness to interface with the facility's systems, to expose everything. "This isn't evolution," Sarah countered, moving slowly toward the reactor. "Evolution is natural selection, adaptation over time. This is just corruption." Marcus laughed, the sound disturbingly inhuman. "Natural selection is too slow. The galaxy is hostile, Sarah. Humanity needs to change now, needs to become stronger. These volunteers, prisoners," Sarah cut him off, "victims, and we're shutting you down." The strike team moved with practiced coordination. The Archivists unleashed waves of bioenergy, while the human defectors provided covering fire. Sarah sprinted toward the reactor, the crystal ready. Marcus moved with impossible speed, his hybrid body flowing like mercury. He caught Sarah in a grip of liquid metal, lifting her off her feet. "Always so stubborn. You could have been part of this, could have become something greater." Sarah struggled, feeling the metal trying to seep into her suit to begin the transformation. "I already am something greater," she gasped. "I'm human." A familiar chirp echoed through the chamber. Nova burst through a ventilation shaft, its scales blazing with light. The young archivist had disobeyed orders, followed them into the facility. Its telepathic blast hit Marcus with devastating force, disrupting the hybrid systems that kept him stable. Sarah broke free, rolling toward the reactor. More hybrid troops poured into the chamber, engaging the strike team in desperate combat. She reached the reactor's access panel, fingers flying over the controls. "Even if you destroy this facility," Marcus called out, his form struggling to stay cohesive under Nova's assault, "others will continue our work. Humanity will evolve." Sarah slammed the crystal into the reactor's interface port. "You're right. Humanity will evolve. But we'll do it our way, through understanding, cooperation, and choice, not through torture and corruption." The crystal pulsed once, then merged with the reactor. Screens throughout the facility came to life, broadcasting its stored data across all frequencies. Every experiment, every victim, every dark secret exposed to the light. Marcus screamed as his hybrid systems began to fail. "You've doomed humanity to weakness." "No," Sarah replied, scooping up Nova as the reactor began to overload. "I've reminded humanity of its strength." The strike team fought their way back to their shuttle as the facility's systems crashed. Throughout the station, stasis pods opened, releasing their prisoners. The resistance fleet, coordinated by Carl, began emergency evacuation procedures. Sarah's shuttle barely cleared the facility before the reactor went critical. The explosion rippled through the ice ring, taking with it decades of twisted science and corrupted dreams. In its wake, the hybrid ships fell silent, their crews freed from their half-living prisons. Hours later, Sarah stood on the archivist ship's observation deck, watching rescue operations continue. Nova sat beside her, its scales reflecting the light of the gas giant. "The data you exposed is reaching every corner of human space," Carl reported. "Nexus Corporation's stock is collapsing. Their board members are being arrested. But more importantly, people are talking. About ethics, about the true meaning of progress, about cooperation between species." Sarah nodded, scratching Nova behind its ear fins. "There will be others like Nexus, other corporations, other tempters offering shortcuts to evolution. But now they will face a united opposition," Carl replied. "Your people have seen both the darkness and the light. They will choose their path forward with open eyes." Nova projected an image, human and archivist ships working together, a new age of cooperation and mutual understanding. Not forced evolution, but natural growth through shared knowledge and respect. Sarah smiled. "Well, little one, looks like my retirement is officially over. Someone needs to help build those bridges between our peoples." Nova chirped happily, its scales glowing with approval. Outside, the first rays of the system's sun broke through the gas giant's rings, illuminating the debris field that had once been Nexus' facility. Among the wreckage, rescue ships continued their work, human and archivist crews working side by side. It wasn't the evolution Marcus had envisioned, but it was evolution nonetheless. Humanity moving forward not through force or corruption, but through compassion, courage, and choice. A harder path, perhaps, but the only one worth taking. Sarah had helped deliver humanity from a dark future of forced transformation. Now she would help guide it toward something better. A future built on understanding between species, on respect for life in all its forms, and on the simple truth that real strength comes not from physical power, but from the heart's capacity for empathy and justice. Nova pressed against her leg, sharing her thoughts of the future. Together, they would help build that better tomorrow, one rescued soul at a time.